All right, so today we're going to talk about the rise of Agentic OS. Agentic OS meaning Agentic Operating System, and it's my thesis on the near future for Agentic AI. And frankly, not just the near future, but probably the distant future. Although this stuff is moving very fast, so it could be, next week. Who knows? And the way I'm setting this up is kind of, agents as a term took off about 2 years ago. We started off at version 1, right? And then we have kind of elevated what they can do. And then eventually we're reaching this point of Agentic OS, right? So let me kind of paint the picture. Agents V1 it was essentially AI automation, right? We were building stuff like inbox managers, content generators, researchers, report generation, stuff that's kind of like single use case, very simple tasks that could pretty much be automated, right? And so around this time, people were getting excited about agents, ourselves included, right? But there was a lot of friction, especially amongst the developer community, about what is an agent versus what is just like an automation with an LLM kind of dropped in the middle of it, right? And so I would argue that these were more like automations than they were agents, right? And so for us, we obviously started here and we've been talking about agents, and it's our number one goal to pretty much get really good at building agents, right? Like true autonomous agents that can make decisions, and plan tasks and execute those tasks, right? And generate content. And then we kind of matured into the vertical agent space. I mean, this space isn't even mature itself, but it was a piggyback off of what happened with SaaS, right? So SaaS somewhat became a model, or it became a model when compute costs went down and we could basically outsource the storage, right? We could go and host things on our own servers. On third-party servers. We didn't have to build our own server racks and host our software there. And then, obviously the model changed from packaging up software and selling it to somebody as a product that someone has to like continue to buy every year, like the Microsoft Word, Microsoft PowerPoint, Microsoft Excel, right? You were buying those for the year, and then you buy the upgraded version next year, or maybe you just stuck with the old version, right? Obviously, the SaaS model came out, software as a service. That only became possible because people were able to outsource the compute, the server costs. And then what happened was it became super cheap to build software, right? And obviously, the business model was super attractive to investors, so a lot of money poured in. And then, what happens there is like, okay, we have this product that's a CRM, this product that's an ATS, this product that's a CMS, whatever. And they were kind of general catch-all products that every company was going to have to work with, every industry was going to have to work with. And then entrepreneurs and developers found opportunities in the gaps, right? Like more specific software products for specific industries that solved specific needs. And that gave rise to basically the vertical SaaS model, right? We are going to build a software platform specifically for car dealerships, or we're going to build a software platform specifically for nursing homes, right? And so obviously what happened is that model worked really well. Private equity was buying up those companies and still are, and making a ton of money off of it. And entrepreneurs were making a ton of money off of it because the multiples and the valuations were pretty high because it was still a software model. And so obviously now people are trying to replicate that model with LLMs, right? With agents. And we're doing this as well. We think there's an opportunity here, and partly because obviously we have a take on what's going to happen and we're not 100% sure, right? This kind of model is proven to work. So it's, it likely will work again, at least for a certain period of time. But to me, this is kind of another step in the direction where we're ultimately going, right? And to me, we're obviously trying to get to the whole omni-capable, omnipresent, godlike AI, right? To some extent, right? Some of us are. But V1, AI automation, V2, AI agents, kind of singular AI agents. And then V3, in my opinion, is Agentic OS. And I think that this is coming this year and next year. So you can see that we're step by step getting closer to this kind of ultimate goal that everybody's talking about. And, half the people are afraid of it. Half the people are excited about it. Most people actually don't even know what's going on or care, right? But I think this is the direction we're going. And so let's dig into Agentic OS. So an agentic system, this is what it is, right? It's an agentic system that operates within a data sandbox where it has full access to the contextual real-time data and the tools it needs to operate reliably, effectively, and autonomously, right? The autonomous part is kind of the part that has been missing a little bit, right? We've had to give it a little bit too much direction, a little bit too much determinism. And so that whole like agentic ability for the AI has been there, but it's been super, super guarded, right? Where the guardrails are really tight. The Agentic OS, I think, opens this up a little bit. I don't think it's fully where we're going, but it opens it up a bit, and the technology's here. And I think this is where things are going to go over the next year or two, right? I think the whole anthropomorphizing agents or personifying agents is not going to last long, meaning like this is an SDR agent, or this is a customer support agent, or this is a recruiting agent, right? Basically mapping what the agents are to roles as they exist today for humans, right? And we honestly, we're doing this, and I still think that there's validity there, but not necessarily the role as we understand it today, more the tasks that are involved, right? As I get into this, that'll kind of make more sense. But I think that, right now, agents work. Agentic operating systems can be built. We're building them. The thing that is missing is kind of that UI, UX that works with agentic systems, right? So agents are supposed to work autonomously, but we still want to track them and review their performance and have human in the loop when it makes sense. And there's a way that we are trying to figure out how to interact with these things that we haven't really cracked yet, right? ChatGPT, I mean, they had GPT-5, 3.5 for a while. It was only developers or people in the know who really knew about it or building products off of it. But it wasn't even until like ChatGPT came out where they put that chat function around it where it really blew up, right? So that's a UI thing, not necessarily a technology thing. And I think that's kind of what we're missing with agents now is that UI. Who's going to crack that UI, UX, the user experience that really makes a lot of sense, right? I mean, the one that we all know is Jarvis, right? I mean, if everybody had a Jarvis, that would be incredible. And frankly, I think Marvel is probably right about that. We're probably going in a very similar direction, but we need to figure out the UI. So what is it in its final form? Like I said, I think it's a Jarvis-like personal AIs that connect to a network of agents, agentic operating systems, tools, functions, data, etc., right? So I think every person will have their own AI component, just like every person has a smartphone for the most part. And that smartphone is what connects you to the outside world, right? Pretty much the internet. That's your access point. I think AI is going to be a very similar thing where it's kind of an extension of you, similar to the smartphone. And then AI will be able to connect with the outside world, right? With internet and software, whatever. Tools, functions, data, other systems. And so I think it'll look something like this, right? Personal agent trained on your personal data inside your personal sandbox, meaning like all of your conversations might get recorded. All of your emails might get added to the database. All of your messages, right? Your comings and goings, all of your data, right? Stuff that you would feel very weird about a company owning or training a model on, right? I think we will have our own kind of personal agents, just like we have our own phones. And that is what will be our connection to, the internet, paywall data, agentic operating systems, like other companies who are running agentic operating systems, tooling, algorithms, etc. For businesses, I think businesses will have a centralized agentic operating system with a centralized database, and it'll pretty much be a business in a box, right? And they can have paywalled access to that data, right? Their proprietary data, their proprietary workflows, right? And similar to the personal agent for consumers, I think it will also connect to the internet and other agentic operating systems and paywall data and tooling and algorithms, right? Personal agents. And so this is something I drew up here that I think kind of illustrates what I'm talking about a little bit better, right? And maybe I can pull up an Excalibur draw so I can kind of zoom in and show you guys. Okay, so we have our consumers, right? What I'm calling the sandbox is basically your ecosystem, right? Of data that is coming to you and data that you are creating, right? So a conversation that you have, a document that you write, right? That's all data that you are either creating or ingesting, right? And so that, to me, is your sandbox. And so your personal agent will have access to that data, right? It'll basically be a second brain for you. And so it'll be you with your little AI buddy, and you'll be able to connect to agentic operating system, other people's agents, right? Games, social media, like in real life machines, like eventually robots, potentially tools, unpredictable innovations, things we can't even foresee right now, other softwares, data sets, and the internet. That's for consumers. And then for businesses, same concept, right? Except the sandbox is the proprietary data of the business and the proprietary workflows of the business, right? And all of the employees inside the business will have their own personal AIs that connect to the agentic operating system of the business. They have that permission, that access to that data. And this is running those proprietary workflows based off that proprietary data set, right? And this, obviously, the business can connect to the same things that the personal agent can, obviously, maybe with some more access because there's more funding behind it. They can pay for that access, right? And then obviously connect to other consumers, right? So you can see on the internet, in the digital space, in the software form, the middleman is no longer, your typical software platform. I think it's going to be AI, and I think it's going to be basically agentic operating systems, basically a web of connections, hopefully the blockchain, passing information back and forth, executing functions and tool calling, and then we are presented with that information at the end, right, in a way that's relevant to us based on our sandbox of data, right? Hopefully that makes sense. And like I said at the beginning, we kind of already have this, right? Like with our smartphones, they provide the real-time contextual data, right? And it's our communication channel and translation machine, right? I'm going to get into that whole translation machine thing probably a little bit later. It's based on a theory or an idea that, or a concept that everything is a language, math and science and Spanish and Italian, and anything you study, right? Like even how to do construction or how to make music, right? It's all a language because we are generating some form of data, communicating that out, and then the person receiving it is interpreting it in some way, right? And so it's just communication back and forth. Anyway, I can get deeper into that a little bit later. But our smartphones have the real-time contextual data and the access to the internet outside, right? It also has information on who we are. We're saving our contacts, our emails are being saved there, right? Our calendars are there, etc. Even our health data is now there. And then obviously it gives us the ability to take actions, right? In this case, we are the AI, right? Humans are the AI. We are the AI learning about what's going on in our environment within our data sandbox. And then to connect to the outside world, we go through the channel of our smartphone and we have access to the internet. We have access to apps. We have access to paywall data, right? We got to pay freaking Apple News, however many dollars a month just to get the news, right? And humans come pre-trained with their own memories, experiences, skills, and purpose, right? The training data informs how each individual interacts with the software and informs the data we generate, right? Because of my experience, memories, and skill set, when I open my phone and go to an app, it might be a different app. I might open my phone in a different way. What I'm seeing is likely different because of who I am, right? So the way that I interact with my phone, the apps that I go to, what I do on those apps, how often I'm on my phone, etc., who I talk to, all of that is based on who I am and who I've come, like my training data, right? My pre-trained, data. And so what does this mean? Well, if we give LLMs agentic capabilities, meaning we give them access to real-time contextual data, we give them the tooling to execute actions and workflows, we give them memory storage and core knowledge, and then we give them feedback mechanisms for continuous improvement, learning, and adjusting. The only thing we're missing is purpose, right? And that's where humans come in. We provide the purpose. That's basically the prompt, essentially, right? So I'm going to hang on this for a second. LLMs right now, the only thing that they're missing is really data. I mean, there's many bottlenecks, right? We have the data bottleneck, we have the context window bottleneck, we have the compute bottleneck, we have the energy bottleneck, and then we have the geopolitical bottleneck, right? We have a series of bottlenecks that eventually will all kind of hopefully get handled, maybe except for the last one. And so once these get removed, once you assume the technology's there, once you assume that that technology is going to be a commodity, I mean, the technology's here, right? It's just harder to build than it will be in the future. But if we assume that the technology's here, it's cheap, it's easy to build, it's easy to spin up, it's basically a commodity, then what's the difference between one agentic operating system and the other? Well, it's the proprietary data and it's what they're doing, right? It's like the instructions, which is basically the purpose, which is basically the prompt, right? So how do we get there? How do we get to kind of the end goal where these things are operating autonomously on our behalf or as a separate entity, supporting our business supporting our teams, in a very relevant way? Well, we need real-time contextual data. We need end-to-end integration with your entire systems. We need to standardize the data pipeline structures. We need robust prompt engineering right now. Hopefully that changes. And then we need a very simple and seamless orchestration of these agents, right? It doesn't need to be multiple nodes wired up, and it doesn't need to be complicated, right? We need a simple and seamless orchestration of these agents. Nice to haves would be better LLMs, obviously more context windows, but more realistically, just better models, better reasoning models. O3, I'm actually very impressed with. O1, I didn't like very much. It took way too long to generate anything, and then what it generated was like halfway decent. O3 Mini is very fast and better, in my opinion. And then maybe a new internet-like protocol specifically for agents. I think this is like a blockchain situation where your personalized agent is secure. Nobody can really access that without your permission. And then there is obviously this internet-like web for agents in particular, right? It doesn't have to look the way it looks today. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I don't know. But it seems like we need just a more seamless roadways between data sets, right? Between databases, platforms. Right now we're doing APIs. It's a little bit of a manual process, obviously, because security is a big thing that we're worried about. But seems like there could be something here that could help with the infrastructure, in my opinion. So what can we do today, right? We're obviously not at the end state. We're not at godlike AI, but we actually are at a place where the technology is here to do some pretty incredible things. And so we've started building these systems, right? We've moved away from just your simple inbox managers, and we've realized that, if we can standardize some of these things, then the capability set is endless, right? It's infinite. It's limited by your, your tool set that you pay for, and two, your prompts at the end of the day, right? And so we built a super agent architecture. That's what we call it. This was before OpenAI came out with their whole super agent PhD thing. But we built the super agent architecture, which is how we architect these systems to make them scalable in this way, right? So scalable via natural language, meaning all you have to do is add prompts. Full end-to-end data sync. That's how we create that data sandbox for the agent. This is what I was calling the master database, right? Which now I'm kind of running with this agentic term. So I'm now calling it agentic database, which is something we're working on. And honestly, we can build those custom for you, right? So if we build that agentic database, we sync the data, then all of a sudden your agents have the data, right? They have their within that data sandbox. And now all we need to do is just make sure that the tooling is there and start writing the prompts. And then, like I said, comprehensive tooling via end-to-end integration, right? Make sure the tooling's there. So let me show you guys an example. So this right here is basically our team's executive agent, right? Mostly like our leadership team's executive agent. And you can see that we call it Mallory. It has access to an agentic CRM, an agentic database, and then right now these sub-agents that are acting as tools, right? So it can take calendar actions, it can take email actions, and Slack actions. Really, the Slack action is basically just sending a Slack message. It has other abilities, but it doesn't need to do anything else really right now. The agentic database has all of our information from conversations, right? Unstructured data. So like all of our emails are being synced into Supabase, and that's being synced into Pinecone. And so now we can do RAG on all of our conversations, right? With proper metadata structuring and all of the stuff that you need. And then the agentic CRM is our way of just keeping track of all of the contacts who interact inside of our ecosystem, right? So if you're in our community, if you are on LinkedIn reaching out to us, email, if you've booked a call with us, if we've interacted in any way, we're trying to capture you as a person and then see if we can find your contact information and just have that logged. So that way in the future, we obviously know who you are, but the agent also knows who you are. If you were to ever reach out to us, it can pull from the agentic CRM, understand your contact information, pull from the agentic database, see if there's any kind of conversations that we've had in the past. And if we have, then it has that relevant contextual information to know who you are and what's the context of who you are within our ecosystem, right? So this is Mallory. We obviously use Airtable here to track the activities. We use N8N, as you can see, to build our agents, right? We like the visual aspect of it. And then let me go and just show you kind of how we manage this thing. So we have an activity log here. All of our agents basically output their output and intermediate steps. We're actually adding an LLM layer to kind of rewrite these to be more readable, to parse them, right? Because they're kind of messy. But we're tracking this, right? We can see what the agents are doing. And then we can configure the agents just here, simply by adding prompts, right? So here we just have the prompt name. I call it playbook. I was calling these plays, but it's a prompt. We have the prompt name. We have the description, because sometimes we're going to need to add a routing agent. Like let's say you have an email come in, and there could be many actions that could be taken based off this email, right? It could be a customer support email or a sales email or an alert notification, whatever it is, right? There's many different scenarios. So it likely is important to have a routing agent there to ingest that email, read the description of all of the prompts that are within your playbook for your super agent, right? Decide which one makes the most sense based on the input data and the context. If it hits the Agentic CRM, it knows what was the past conversation with this person, has the input data, the email that just came in, and then it has the names of the prompts and the description of each, right? And it's deciding which one needs to get run, right? And then once it decides that, it spits it to the super agent, right? Mallory, which you guys just saw, and it pulls the prompt, right? And so we have our prompts here that you guys can see. A little about us section, workflow steps, probably have output examples here, keeping that very light, right? Some notes. Same thing for all of these, right? Obviously, it's not exactly the same thing, but it's very similar, depending on what the scenario is, right? And so this one, coordinate and schedule meetings. So in our calendar, we could basically say, like, CC Mallory, say, hey, Mallory, can you find some time for, John and I to meet? I can go and check my calendar, see what my available times are, present those to John. John can say, oh, okay, yeah, that time works for me. And then Mallory can go and book that in calendar. Nice and easy scheduling meetings. It can draft follow-up emails after sales calls. Sales call finishes, we get that transcript. It reads that transcript. It pulls context from who the people are who are on the call, who are not internal. And then it can draft a follow-up email and send it to the salesperson for the salesperson to review and then go ahead and send, right? And then general assistance, right? So we have this thing in Slack, and like sometimes we just need to pull information about what happened on a certain call that we weren't on, or we just needed to go book something for the team. Like, hey, we need a team meet in an hour. Can you book it for us? Something like that, right? Or shoot an email to this person asking if they're still available to meet today. Something like that, right? So if I wanted to add more to it, I would just say, like, hey, joke tellings, right? This prompt instructs the agent to tell funny jokes. And then I can write like a very simple prompt. You are an expert comedian. Tell a funny joke. Something simple like that, right? And so right now, this is kind of like the scrappy way of doing it. Right now, I'm just going to take this record ID and kind of show you how we architect this, right? So, they changed the filter thing here. Interesting. Oh, I'm in executions. So I do my filters. I go to the Mallory agent. All of these workflows here are related to the Mallory agent, right? Everything with a bot is an agent. Everything with a play button is a trigger, right? So a webhook. Black dot is kind of just, for now it's Agentic CRM, but it's also like automations. And then obviously this hammer and wrench is like a tool, right? An external tool. And so let's see, Slack message. We have a couple other agents running. Right now what we're doing, because we're still working on this Agentic database, making sure it's right, where we're exploring like knowledge graphs. And then, we might move away from RAG given what's going on with the context windows and Gemini's abilities now. And that new, I think it was a paper that came out that basically said it does better with just all of the data put into the context window as opposed to doing RAG, because you miss the context when it's chunked up, right? Which is why we typically do larger chunk sizes anyway when we do RAG. So this is just stuff that we're kind of exploring to make these things better, right? That's the whole point. So we're working on the Agentic database. So for now, what we do is we basically build that context before we hit the agent, right? So in this case, it's just a Slack message. There's not a lot of context to build, but part of it is we need to have the prompt in here, right? So we have this Airtable node. We put that record ID of what the prompt is that we want it to run. It's a joke teller. Save that. And then I'll test it out. I'll go to Mallory. All right, so here's our Mallory agent. You can see we obviously use it quite a bit. It's pulling up my meetings. I asked what meetings I have today. It's pulling those up. It's breaking down calls with some people. We talk to this thing, right? Just ask questions about what's been going on in our business, right? We can't be on every call. We can't see everything, right? So we need to turn this into a hive mind somehow and all get on the same page. I'll just say like, hey, Mallory, tell me funny jokes. What's funny is like if I'm going to prompt it in that way, I probably didn't even need to add the prompt in the back end. So maybe let's try something else. Why don't scientists trust atoms? Because they make everything up. Ross didn't like that one. Let's see if it listens to the prompt. I'm going to say, tell Ross, I say hi. See, now she has personality. Oh, and if I see Ross, I'll be sure to pass along the hi message for you. Nice. See, so anyway, obviously that prompt worked. Let's see if we can fire up a different one, right? Let's just do general assistance so we can see how that one works. We'll go to new Slack message. We'll replace this. Again, this is why we need a routing agent, right? Which we're adding to this executive agent here soon. We call it an executive agent, right? Just like an executive assistant. But obviously, a couple things can happen off of a Slack message, right? So we need to be able to determine which one makes the most sense. So anyway, let's hop back into Mallory. Okay, so, let's see a real example, right? We'll say, book a meeting for Ross and I for 10 p.m. tonight. I'm going to give it my email because with Slack, you got to upgrade in order to see the users. It's kind of annoying. So right now it just like is an ID of like we can't really see users. So it is what it is, but we can see the executions here. Will show up. There we go. Running now. What I wish, by the way, if any of the E-Net guys are listening, I wish that during the run we could just see what it looks like when we do test runs, right? Seeing the nodes work. Instead of it being this blank page right here, it'd be cool to just like see it working. That would be sick, especially because we use we modularize our workflows. And so there's during just one execution of a task for an agent, there's at least 3 different workflows working, at least 3. And so it'd be nice to just see kind of all of them work as if we were visually seeing it with, when we're testing, right? Test workflow. But that's for the innate team. Anyway, it ran. Let's go just see what the message really quick. Meeting has been booked. Cool. 10 p.m. Let's go look at Mallory's calendar. Cool. Look at that. Me, Ross, created by Mallory using my calendar. Fantastic, right? So if we go back, we go look at the activity log, we can see meeting for tonight has been scheduled. Here are the details. Let me know if you need anything else. It's exactly what it said in here. We're going to work on the formatting, right? ChatGPT, every time you copy and paste, it's this markdown formatting. It's one of the most annoying things about working with ChatGPT is that formatting stuff. But obviously we get the information, right? Let's say, also ask Weldon if he can make that me. Shoot him an email. So it's basically an executive assistant, right? It has access to the calendar, has access to the email. We can talk to it in Slack. We don't have to add mention it. For a while, we had to add mention it. And it was really annoying. It hurt that kind of user experience. That's why I'm saying the UI, UX is extremely important. These things can do what we need them to do, right? We can wire it up. We can develop it. We can do whatever we need to do, right? The missing piece is kind of like, how do I interact with this thing? It's like semi-human in a way. Like it's a form of intelligence that can do stuff and do stuff autonomously, but I need to have observability. I need to be able to come in and stop it when I want to stop it, mid workflow, or just communicate it. It'd be nice to communicate with it more like you would a colleague than a piece of software, right? I think that's ultimately where I think we're going, especially with this UI UX challenge that's in front of us, right? So obviously this worked. We are going to, if this will load, we'll look at the execution. Here we go. Pulled the Agentic CRM. and it obviously got Weldon's email information. There's a couple of emails there, but you can see it knows that it works for us. It says refer to the About Us section. It knows it works for us, right? It's an employee. So it's obviously going to choose his business email as opposed to his personal email, right? Call the email agent. Email was successfully sent, right? We got all this log data, which is probably in the activity log as well. And it sent this email, right? Sent it from Mallory's account to Weldon. Subject line meeting confirmation. Body is, hi Weldon, can you confirm, blah, 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 right? And then let's go just look at the email really quick. Okay, so we're in the sense for Mallory, Weldon. Hi Weldon, can you confirm you will be able to attend the upcoming meeting? Please let us know at your earliest convenience. Nice and easy. A little bit out of context actually here. I think it's because I don't have the window buffer memory attached at the moment. There was some error going on with it earlier, so I just kind of removed it just to show you guys how this demo works for the most part. But usually it has this memory where it can obviously get the context of the conversation that happened in the past. So that's the agent pretty much. And so the idea is that we can pretty much just start to add more things to it, right? That's how we build the scalability of these things. We've had to build our development time at the beginning was way too long. One, because this is all new stuff and we're learning as we're going, right? But now that we've built some kind of standards of the process and how we build these things, we've pattern matched. We've now realized that if we could just get it to the point where it is a natural language experience as opposed to a software development experience or software dev shop type of situation, then it unlocks kind of that magic moment of what these things are supposed to be, right? These are supposed to be just extensions of us, online, right? And so for it to be an extension, we just have to simply communicate. Instead of building it, we just need to communicate with it, right? So that's how we separate AI automation from AI agent. And that's how we're taking another step closer to this agentic future that everybody's talking about, right? Where software looks entirely different, where our interaction with the digital space looks entirely different, right? Where scaling your business looks entirely different. Now, imagine you had your data sandbox, you had all of your tools connected to an LLM, right? And all you needed to do, basically, was put together your playbook for what this thing does, right? So, in my webinar last week, I do one every Wednesday, starting last week. The one last week, I mentioned that we're in the age of the idea guy, right? Where it's now become so easy to just build these systems yourself, even if you don't have developer experience. Now, if you're a developer, it's obviously quicker and easier for you. But, now you can kind of just explain your vision and these tools can build them for you, right? There's a platform called Lovable that's getting a lot of clout and hype now for good reasons, right? Because it's an incredible tool that automatically sets up your backend in Supabase, creates the UI. You can create an entire web application on this thing. It's actually very impressive, right? And I'm genuinely not that impressed with most of these tools that are coming out because whenever I look at it and I start playing with it, I realize we could just build the same thing in N8N and Supabase and Airtable or Lovable, right, as the interface. And so to me, it's like, well, this is cool, but I could just do this myself, right? And like, give me a week. So, but Lovable was one of the few where I'm really, this is next level, right? So anyway, hyping up Lovable. I might put a link in the description if you guys want to check it out. But so you guys know, just to end, I'm opening up my community, way more active in there now. I just put a course in there. So we have a couple modules in here: LLMs, agents, chatbots, RPA, Gen AI, machine learning, fully self-driving, fine-tuning, vector databases, RAG, graph RAG, exploring graph RAG. Not an expert yet, but it's very interesting to me. Prompt engineering, APIs, webhooks, data pipelines, and then this is like a ever-growing course, right? Like I'm going to add all of these super agents that we're building, right? So I think it's easier for people to understand in terms of department and role, like how we communicate this stuff, right? So to me, the only difference between one agent and another is the prompt, as I've been saying, right? But for the market today, for your average person, just saying, hey, this is an AI agent that can do anything. There's nothing for them to latch on there, right? Because they don't understand the limitations. They don't understand the capabilities. It's not until you start to educate a little bit and show them some examples where it really kind of, jogs their brain and they start brainstorming and they come up with a bunch of ideas, right? But a lot of people aren't even there. I met a guy the other day who heard of ChatGPT 3 weeks ago, right? And he's already on the agentic wave at this point. Like, he learned so much in that 3 weeks to where we could have a genuine conversation about this stuff, and there wasn't a ton of gaps in his knowledge. Now, he found it 3 weeks ago, and he's an active, smart, sharp entrepreneur. Imagine others, right? People don't know what's going on here, and it's pretty crazy. So I say all that to say, we're kind of saying like, hey, this is a sales super agent. But realistically, once you give it the tools, once you put it in the data sandbox, the difference becomes the prompt, right? And so I'm still going to do it in this way where there's going to be a sales super agent. I'm going to load up how I built Mallory here, the executive agent. And then we're going to do like marketing. Actually, I probably have listed it in chat here. Yeah, so we'll do executive agent live build, we'll do marketing, we'll do recruiting, I'll talk about agent architecture, which I have a lot on that. Let me see if I can push that. I kind of avoided talking about it on the course last time because I just want to make sure things are kind of straight, but this is pretty much what it is. I have it loaded up, just need to go ahead and create the video, right? But you can see, obviously, working through these courses here. The style in which I do these tutorials, okay, then we're doing like marketing, recruiting, like demos. Okay. So anyway, that's the course. This is the free section right here, discussion chat, the webinar calendar, and then like VIP discussion chat, the academy, and then all of our templates are loaded up here. Need to add some pictures to make it look nicer, obviously, but that's where we're at. So, it's going to be an ever-growing course where like I start to do these videos where I'm breaking down exactly how I'm building them just in here. It's going to live here. I don't really like doing tutorial videos. And honestly, the style of the course is not for everybody. It's not me sharing screen and building these things hands-on for all of these modules, except here. It's me talking through what I know about these, right? Which may be more, which may be less than you. So, that's what it is, right? It's geared towards kind of the layman, I would say, to understand these concepts. And then I go a little bit deeper into some of this stuff and how it relates to how we build these agents, right? And we use N8N. So I always look at it through the lens of N8N. Well, not always. I look at it through the lens of N8N for a lot of these concepts. But then, like I said, for these are going to be like screen recorded, step-by-step, how I'm building them. It's a voiceover. It's not super, do this, do that, do this. I'm talking through as I'm building it so you can see me building it. I'm talking through. So anyway, these here are me sitting and talking like I'm doing now with a deck. And so if that's not your style, if you're looking for something that's a little bit more technical, step-by-step, I would probably go check out like Nate Herc has some good stuff. Cole Medina has some really good stuff. The AI Workshops guy has some good stuff, I think. And there's some good guys out there. If I'm missing you, let me know. But there's some good guys in the community. So yeah, guys, I mean, that's pretty much it. I'm pretty excited about where this is going. I think Agentic OS is next. And I think that the age of kind of like these agents is gone, right? Because that's essentially AI automation. It's not AI agents. And our goal is to get to this agentic future where everyone has a Jarvis and we can be 1,000x more productive, and we can go from idea to business or product or go-to-market campaign or whatever it is, like that, right? That would be incredible. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching.